And now we're going to go on with part 2 of creativity. And they started to talk about practicing the change of focus. So let's see what this says. Practicing changing our focus is very valuable to the skill required in creativity. Someone may inadvertently change their focus, and almost accidentally, that they're not even willfully trying to access a change of focus. And they will see or sense an insight on some level, and perhaps become intrigued by what happened, what was the interpretation of that experience, and seek to repeat that experience. And so they will try and replicate whatever the process, whether it was mental, spiritual, or physical, that got them to that place. For example, someone who accesses the very best of physical energy can, by walking in the forest and being completely in the present while walking in a forest, will experience the high energy that's around them in the natural world. And that kind of increased awareness, in our terminology, occurs by placing oneself by oneself in a very beautiful physical environment, not necessarily even particularly intending to be creative. All of the creative process pretty much requires that we're by ourselves. So placing oneself in a physical, beautiful physical situation, we can have access to that change of focus. And when one is beginning to practice this change of focus, they were talking about going into one of those tanks where you have no sensory input. You have to access creativity. But the more ability one has to lessen distractions and to utilize the energy more efficiently to effectively have the goal of changing focus, one can practice setting up. One can practice by participating in the physical condition that will bring us to our present focus. And one can also set the mental environment, as I do by coming to a studio or a place where it's quiet. You won't have any interruptions, and there's a lot of mental energy pre-prepared by these small series of rituals. Like I do when I meditate, I can access many of the higher realities that I wish to by setting this mental stage within myself. And of course, for me, it requires some visualization, such as relinquishing anticipation, changing the energy level in the body, anticipating without expectations, willing myself with my intent or will. So all of these preparations contribute to my change of focus. And when I was doing this work, I had a very quick and easy facility to access these change of focus because I was practicing this so much. So then in the spiritual sense, somebody who even through ordinary religious practice, rituals, can practice changing their focus. Even in the preparation, such as the dressing and the going to church, practice accessing grace. Practice accessing the God realities, the higher states of being. They exercise this spiritual aspect of themselves and focus on the spiritual access. But there are preparations, there are rituals even to prepare to go to church. So there's definitely a change of focus. That is practice. But the key and critical word is practice. To repeat a certain set of activities which lead us to a change of focus. And these sets of activities are repeated. And the more they're repeated, the easier the change of focus happens. So it does require repetition and practice to change our focus very easily in the process of creativity. And certainly an artist going into a studio would be. Now, once this change of focus becomes very practiced, then the intent to glean or gather very specific types, in my case it's information because I'm such a mentally oriented person, so I'm always looking for information to bring and share with others. I will, once I have the practice, I can plan more what it is that I want to find out. And this distinction in the process is one of the middle steps in the creative process, in that you must know what it is you want to accomplish, what you want to find through the change of focus. And that is very important to direct the will in the creative process to access and glean the exact information that you wish to. So it does take some prior planning. When I do it, I know I can't access information unless I have a need, perhaps an emotional charge to it, an emotional need for certain information. In my case, it's a desire to complete a certain body of work. But there has to be a need, a necessity, some kind of emotional drive to form the question, to form the intent, something that empowers the will. And oftentimes people access a creative focus through stress, because stress creates a drive or a need to access more information, these extra or more informative realities. So, for example, somebody through an illness will undoubtedly, inadvertently tap into higher information or knowledge focuses to help them heal their illnesses. And that's why we see so many people become what we call psychicness through an illness. Now, any trauma in your life, say a divorce or a change, your move, or a change of occupation, or the beginning of a new occupation, or a change in where we live, for example, any of these things that cause stress may make your entire dynamic, your entire energy dynamic, seek on whatever level, probably simultaneously, seek added information, which leads to the change of focus, to different realities to access information in a response to the stressful situation. So stress is one great factor. Stress or a trauma in life can cause the energy dynamic of a person, and by the dynamic we mean the combination of physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of our focus, to enter the creative process by a change of focus. And of course, when you work with bridging the gap, I think they're talking about my mediumship work. they're talking about mediumship as the individual need of people on both sides of the veil. Both sides of the veil. This need or desire to communicate is what energizes or fuels the change of focus for both of us to be able to communicate. So that's one important aspect to instigate the creative process. There definitely needs to be a cause, a causal event or desire, so that we focus the will to bring a willful activity to the creative process is by an emotional need most often. So let's get back to where we were in the middle of the process. So once we change our focus and begin to receive very specific information on the desired topic, based on the need, based on the question, basically. No matter what the drive to do this was. So once we have a desire and practice in our change of focus, and then have a particular problem within this change of focus that we are looking for information, we have to narrow down what it is, that we want to know, to gather, glean, or become aware of. Then we must interpret the information within that change of focus. Even within the change of focus, somehow have a tangible representation of the information that we can bring back to our walking, waking life. And this tape, okay, we're going to stop this and start up again. The tape ended.